Frauds and schemes within the world of business has been common with the finance industries for many years. Through several schemes that have been involved, many investors have suffered many losses as well as lacking trust within consumers. Several well-known business individuals involved in such schemes like Bernard Madoff, Tom Peters, Alan Stanford. Types of schemes. Pyramid scheme is a form of investment in which each paying participant recruits two further participants with return given to early participants using money contributed by later ones. Ponzi scheme, fraudulent investment, scam promoting high rates of return with little risk to investors, but that isn't the case. So how the Ponzi scheme works, the schemer promises investors a return on investment for each month that their money is invested in the firm. Since investors receive money on the first money, news started to spread and recruitment follows. Then this convinces more investors to place their money in the system, and then when funding runs out, the scheme collapses. The largest Ponzi scheme in U.S. history at $3.65 billion. Highly successful entrepreneur and CEO of Peters Group Worldwide, PGW. The company, wholesale brokerage firm Peters Company Inc., issued promissory notes to investors, and investors were provided with fake purchase orders and promised 15 to 20% returns. Bernard Madoff, highly successful business person, offered returns of 10% on over-the-counter stocks, used the appeal of exclusivity and invitation-only policy. His stated strategy was to buy stocks as a way to limit the potential losses he would be trading them. He also created relations with intermediaries, feeders to keep the money flow. Madoff was sentenced to 150 years in prison for his crime, became the first prosecuted by the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, for Ponzi scheme in 2008. Alan Stanford, founder and CEO of Stanford Financial Group. He offered investors certificates of deposit CDs with consistent returns of 9.87% compounded annual interest. Stanford allegedly operated a $7 billion Ponzi scheme for 2 decades. In 2006, the SEC began an investigation into Stanford Financial but closed it. They found evidence Stanford had misused funds and misrepresented and falsified documents to hide fraud. Stanford was sentenced to 110 years in prison. So what are some red flags of Ponzi schemes? So high investment returns, little in a risk, overly consistent returns, unregistered investments, unlicensed sellers, difficulty receiving payments, and account statement errors and inconsistencies of the paperwork. So look for these red flags when you're looking at any investment to see if your investment meets any of these red flags. If it hits any of these red flags, then don't invest in it. So always search for if the investment hits any of these red flags. And then questions: how do Ponzi schemes and pyramid schemes differ? How are they similar? What should be done to ensure large-scale frauds such as Ponzi schemes and pyramid schemes do not happen in the future? Why are white-collar criminals such as Madoff able to carry out their schemes for so long when similar types of fraud often collapse at an early stage? So the main difference between them is that the offender of the Ponzi scheme asks individuals to invest their money and promises a high return. Pyramid schemes, however, lead individuals to believe that they're taking an active role in the scheme. Another difference is that pyramid schemes typically fall through quicker, while Ponzi schemes tend to last for a long period of time. Both schemes are similar to the fact that they're both criminal activities that have the same basic structure. Ponzi schemes last longer due to the depth of the Ponzi scheme, have more connections to more sources of money, which allows such criminals like as Madoff to branch out. The longer the Ponzi scheme can fuel its resources, then it will last longer. An individual's good reputation can only help themselves. There's no way to stop besides being smart. As an investor, you need to really do your research and make sure that the company doesn't hit those red flags that I address before you invest. So you got to look at the company and see if it meets any of those red flags that I showed. So if it looks like a Ponzi scheme based on these red flags, don't invest. Yeah. So make sure that you use these tools from this presentation to check if the investment is a potential Ponzi scheme. So white-collar criminals dupe their victims by establishing themselves as trustworthy and respectable figures. White-collar crime is unique because it is often perpetrated by a rogue individual who knowingly steals, cheats, or manipulates in order to damage others. Many times these types of fraud collapse fairly quickly due to their unsustainable nature. Yeah.